It is now to be told of King Attila, that he burned large cities and castles in the kingdom of King Valdimar. When King Valdimar found out that there was harrying in his lands, he sent word into all his land that everyone who could carry a shield or dared to fight should come to him. When King Valdimar was ready to move against King Attila, he had no fewer than 10,000 knights and many more in the army. He went to where he met King Attila, and a mighty battle arose where the two kings met. They fought for a long time with much valor and bravery. And King Attila rode foremost in his army and carried his standard himself. Hildibrand rode in the other column with the Amlung army of King Thidrek, and he had the standard of King Thidrek in his hand. He fought most bravely, and many men fell before him from King Valdimar's army. Markgraf Rodinger did the same. King Valdimar rode forward boldly and urged the Rus and had many horns blown. There was a great storm of war cries and urging on of the Rus, and many of the Hun army fell. Their exchange ended with King Attila fleeing with all of his men, and before it ended, he had lost no fewer than 2,400 men. The Markgraf and Hildibrand saw that King Attila was fleeing. Hildibrand remembered what brave men the Amlungs were in battle, and he urged his men on anew to fight, and the Markgraf did the same with his men. Each also urged the other on, and they continued the battle with exceptional valor. A little later, they had felled 2,400 men. And it happened that an earl of King Valdimar from Greece came against them, and he struck Hildibrand so hard with his spear that he fell from his horse to the ground. When the Markgraf saw that Hildibrand had fallen, he urged his men and the Amlungs on, and they went forward to help Hildibrand so that he could escape. The Markgraf rode to where Hildibrand was. He took his horse and brought it to him. And when he got back on his horse, he fought fiercely and rode forward and fought for a long time most bravely. Their battle ended when Hildibrand fled, because there was such an uneven force against them that they had lost 120 men of the Amlungs. The Markgraf had lost no fewer men, and they escaped this time and rode until they arrived in Hunaland and met their King Attila. They had been defeated with dishonor, and they rode now home to Susa. When they arrived at home, Hildibrand went to where King Thidrek had been laying wounded and spoke. "How happy I am to see you alive, and how much happier I would be to see you able to fight." And King Thidrek asked Hildibrand what had taken place worth reporting on their journey to Rusiland. And Hildibrand answered, there is something to be told. You have often said that King Attila was a very brave man and very bold in battle, but I have always thought that he would not be much of a warrior or a bold fighter. But rather, he seems to me to be the greatest coward. When we came into Rusiland and King Valdimar came against us, then we were prepared for battle. The Rus came at us and fought fiercely. But when the battle was hardest and we needed most to attack, the miserable dog King Attila fled from the field and let his standard fall before all the Hun army. I remembered how much support I had from the Amlungs and the Markgraf as well. I rode forward against the army of the Rus and felled many of them. Then an earl from King Valdimar rode against me and struck me so that I fell to the earth from my horse. But we have to repay the Markgraf for coming to me with my horse, so that we escaped. And thus we received defeat and dishonor in Rusiland. And King Thidrek asked, Master Hildibrand, be silent and tell me no more of your journey, because it has turned out so very badly that I expect that my wounds will get better and heal. If it turns out so, then we shall return to Rusiland, and before we return from there, we shall see who flees, King Valdimar or we. The Rus shall not long glory that they had the better part over the Huns and the Amlungs. Before a half year had passed, King Thidrek was well. One day, Thidrek called King Attila to a council with him and spoke. Do you remember, sir, how much shame you gained the last time from King Valdimar in Rusiland? Do you wish to avenge that, or leave it as it is? And King Attila answered, I certainly do not want to leave things as they are, if I have your full support, and if I expected that you help me as before with your bravery and valor. King Thidrek answered, Certainly, I shall give you aid. If you wish to have my advice, then you will collect now an army from all of your kingdom, and then we shall not wait any longer. Either King Valdimar will flee his kingdom before us, or he will lose his life. And the third possibility is that we shall never return. And King Attila now sent messengers into all his kingdom, saying that any man should come to him who wished to offer him support in battle. And King Attila had collected a very large army in a short time, no less than 10,000 knights. He sent a second messenger saying that all should come to him who were 20 or older. And before he left Hunaland, he had 20,000 knights and many other men. He rode now with his army into Rusiland and Poland, and burned castles and cities wherever he went. King Attila arrived before the city called Palteskia. This town was so strong that they scarcely knew how they should take it. There were great stone walls and large castles, broad and deep moats, and in the town was a large army to protect the town. And the men who were to protect the town were not at all afraid of King Attila's army. When King Attila saw how well defended the town was, he had a camp set up and divided the army into 3 places. He kept 10,000 under this banner, and the second 10,000 he put under Thidrek of Bern. And there were also many savages in this group. He assigned a third group of 10,000 to Markgraf Rodinger, and he had also many vagabonds. And now each of the commanders set up his camp before the city, and they fought for many days with the defenders, and achieved many great deeds, and each side lost many men. When they had been in this place for 3 months, King Thidrek told King Attila that he did not wish to remain any longer in that place with all of the army, and he said, "My lord, King Attila, we wish either that you and the Markgraf ride with your divisions out into Rusiland to another place, and we will sit around the city with our division, and we will not leave until the city is taken. Or, if you prefer to sit here, then we shall go to another place." King Attila answered cautiously, because it came into his mind that King Thidrek might want to have the praise alone for winning this city. And he thought he could see that many places were spoiled in the city wall, because the catapults had been used day and night, and they needed 300 men to operate them. There were many of them in each division. It also came to his mind that if King Attila wished to remain behind with his division alone, then it could happen that King Valdimar could come and fight against him with an overwhelming army, such as he had heard he had assembled. He would then miss the support of King Thidrek and the Markgraf. King Attila answered King Thidrek's speech in this way: "Good friend, I have expended so much effort to take this city that I cannot leave before my standard is carried over the battlements of the castle. I would also rather bid you and Markgraf Rodinger not to leave, because we have often fought with the Rus when we had become worn down, and they had a superior force. Now we have such a large army that we shall bear no blame if we do not divide our army." And King Thidrek answered, "We shall conquer Rusiland very slowly then, if all 3 of us remain here around this town. We always came before against the whole army of the Rus, with no more than 1,200 men. Now we have 10,000 knights and more other men, even if we separate ourselves from the army. The Rus have already lost more than 2,400 men before us. You remain behind here, and the Markgraf with you, with all of his men. But I will ride out with my division and attack more towns, because the Huns will gain the victory this time. They agreed on this. At the end of this episode of the Thidrekssaga, the fate of the Hun and Amlung army seems to be uncertain once more. But the Weavers of Fate will already have had done their work and decided who's going to have the upper hand. So tune in again for the next episode to find out. And see you again back here in the Hall of Sagenheim.